Luton Town have finally reached the promised land of English football, that being the Premier League. One of two clubs to have signed an agreement to create the Premier League, but never actually played in the league. Now there's only one club, that being Notts County. Luton Town, throughout most of their history, have been plagued with financial troubles, potential relocations and mergers to Milton Keynes, and that insane time when previous chairman John Gurney proposed the creation of a 70,000 capacity stadium with an F1 racing circuit built around it by the M1 motorway. Quite frankly, Gurney requires a video of his own. I wanted to talk about that time Luton Town were made, according to them and many other football fans, an example of by the Football Association and the Football League. This is the story of the 2008-09 season, a season where Luton were effectively relegated before a ball had even been kicked. So during the 07-08 season, Luton Town had already been docked 10 points for going into administration, which led to the fan-owned consortium LTFC 2020 buying the club, bringing the club into fan ownership. The club at the time had debts of £4.5 million, and there was an FA probe into alleged transfer irregularities described by then chairman David Pinkney as, quote, a storm in a teacup. Well, that storm in a teacup led to Luton Town being found guilty on a count of 15 misconduct charges. The club, as a result, was handed a 10-point deduction. So let's keep count here so we know how many points Luton were deducted. So, the FA at this point have just taken away 10 points. This is of June of 2008. Following this, the takeover of the club by LTFC 2020 was completed, taking the club out of administration. The Football League now chimes in and claimed that the club had violated its rules regarding the exit from administration because no company voluntary arrangement had been reached with the club's creditors. It was proposed that for the club to play that season in League 2, they would have to accept a further 20-point deduction on top of the 10 they had already received. Of course, Luton Town would go on to appeal that decision. They would unfortunately lose that appeal. So if you're keeping tally, they would accept a 20-point further deduction on top of the 10-point deduction they'd already had. So by this point, before a ball had even been kicked, Luton Town would start the season on minus 30 points, bottom of the Football League. I feel it worth mentioning at this point that Luton weren't the only club this season to start with a points deduction, with both Bournemouth and Rotherham United being docked at 17 points. However, I would add that the situation involving Luton and the corresponding situations at Bournemouth and Rotherham United are vastly different. So, at the start of the season, now on minus 30 points, it was pretty much guaranteed that Luton would be playing conference football the following season. The club appointed club legend Mick Harford as manager, who needed to rebuild with the added help of a transfer embargo for most of the summer, which was only lifted 48 hours before their opening match of the season. Damn, they really did want Luton to go down, didn't they? Let's check back in with Luton, the mid-season point. Their record looked like this: 7 wins, 8 draws and 8 defeats, meaning that heading into 2009, they would have a points tally of -1. For reference, at this point, Bournemouth, who had sacked their manager Jimmy Quinn and appointed a certain Eddie Howe, had already cleared their negative points tally, achieving that in a 3-3 draw with Grimsby Town in November, a month earlier. Despite the uphill challenge of Football League survival, Luton Town had one moment of pure joy as Mick Harford led the club to Wembley Stadium for the Johnson's Paint Trophy final, which the Hatters won by 3-2 against League One Scunthorpe United. Despite that joyous moment at Wembley, it was just 8 days later that Luton's 89-year stay in the Football League was over, with a 0-0 draw at home to Chesterfield. Luton Town finished the season with 26 points. They would have needed 42 points to survive, and if you add the 30 points deducted to their end of season tally, Luton Town would have finished comfortably mid-table in 15th place between Rotherham United and Aldershot Town. Luton were relegated for a 5-year exile in the Conference National. We know how the story ends and the remarkable fight back of the likes of Bournemouth and Luton from the 08-09 League 2 season to get to the Premier League. But given Luton Town's history of financial problems, you would have been forgiven for thinking Luton would never have come back from this. And maybe, just maybe, that's what the FA and the Football League were banking on. Instead, fellow 08-09 League 2 member clubs would hit the wall, such as Macclesfield Town, Darlington, and fellow relegated club Chester City. Luton, though, survived and live to this day, and will be telling a very different story this season.